right, if you'll rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here it is, October, my favorite month, except for what comes after. Before we get going tonight, I just want to say a few things about the current climate of the United States, maybe the world, and just bring that a little closer to home, saying, we need to recognize how fortunate we are to live in the community we live in. And living in this community as we do, we can take a lot of things for granted that so many people in the world cannot take for granted. And that comes with a big responsibility also. And one of those responsibilities that I see for not only the town board, but for everyone who lives in the community is to be a good ambassador of this town. And, when we meet people, I know recently, we're inundated and there's a lot of tension about a lot of things. But we need to extend ourselves, we really do, and be good ambassadors for this community. It's more important than ever to reach out to people and, not only remain civil and engage in civil discourse, but to go above and beyond, just because we've been given so much here. So I just wanted to put that out there. I think it's important, especially in light of what we witnessed on television the other night, to lead by example and to be better people. So with that, we'll move right along. Approval of minutes, monthly town board meeting, September 3rd, 2020.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Committee reports, Conservation Board.
Okay, the Conservation Board met on September 8th. The CB, this is a ongoing application for Riverview Route 9. The Conservation Board reviewed the new plan. This is in regards to an adjacent property across the street from the business. Was looking for a turnaround capability. Unfortunately, originally it was a dump site. So they have been working with site visits to the site as the applicant's been improving the location. And basically the applicant wants to work with the natural resource officer or wetlands inspector for the rear restoration plan and also a fencing barrier to protect that area, which I think is a good deal. And that's ongoing. The next applicant was Dana and Kevin on Hudson River Lane. This is two existing houses that exist right now. I believe they purchased the house next door to them. They will be tearing down both houses and building a 3-bedroom home. This is along the Hudson River, so the concerns are for the Conservation Board obviously is regarding the tear down, is to ensure that all of the construction precautions and so forth are taken properly so that naturally there's as least amount of impact to the Hudson River as possible. The new septic system design, which has been approved by the Putnam County Board of Health, will not discharge affluent out of the system. It is a pump into the tank kind of system into a gravel basin, 10 by 26 inch deep. The septic system has multiple safety barriers and alarms. The system will be above the flood base level, which is of course set at 7 feet. The system is also capable of operating 20 feet submerged. So when we're talking about high tides and certainly 100-year flooding, that's a very important factor. And the the Conservation Board again wants to perform another site visit. The Natural Resource Officer asked for an annual report as well regarding the maintenance, operability, which seems kind of prudent for a system such as that, and that will be ongoing. Also, the mitigation regarding the stormwater protection plan, was also discussed. The project engineer has claimed and committed to the fact that they'll have existing plans on the site at the time of the site walk-around. And obviously discussions about rain, water runoff, and so forth is also discussed. We also got on to a topic of stormwater training. As you know, from time to time, we discuss what efforts we're taking in the town. A lot of our drains have decals on them to remind people, because remember, we have a lot of people that come here from the city and so forth and may not be familiar with the fact that our sewers are not like New York City, and that it can affect the adjacent waterways of our properties and so forth. So it's very important we do not discharge down them. Glenn Watson also advised the group that the Ox Road property, this is a property ongoing for looking to do an upgrade regarding the garages and so forth for that particular property, is taken over the engineering work for there. This property has had some violations in the past, and basically they will work through those issues along with our building inspector as well in order for us to move forward. And our next meeting is October 13th.
Thank you, Mike. Recreation.
Good evening. The Recreation Department is sponsoring another drive-in film, since it was sold out the last time they had a drive-in movie, and in time for Halloween, Hocus Pocus. So please check out the Phillipstown Recreation Department website for details on the drive-in. Although it's free, you do need to register in advance, or you can call the rec department right here. There also will be some new outdoor programming, so look for that. That will be posted as well, so that there will be some activities outdoors for people in the fall. The next meeting of the Recreation Commission is October 8th. I'm sorry, October 28th.
October
Thank
20th,
you.
okay. Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
Phillipstown Hub.
The Phillipstown Hub is celebrating its first anniversary in October. October 12th to 18th is going to be an open house week. So there will be a number of events posted, and we encourage everyone to check out the phillipstownhub.org website for the events celebrating the open house and the first year anniversary.
That's great, thank you. Planning Board.
Okay, Planning Board. Planning Board met September 17th via Zoom. Pretty full agenda. First item on the agenda was new business. Roland Heitman and Jean Maria Fleming. Neil Zuckerman recused himself from this particular case because he's familiar with them and he's friends with them. Anyway, the applicant is seeking an approval of a site which is a new construction of a single-family residence that will be served by a surface sewage system and a private well. The new house will be less than 3,000 square feet. It's in a ridge-line protected area. It also has steep slopes, but no construction will be built in the steep slope area. The board classified this as a minor project, listed as a type 2 action under SECA, referred to the Conservation Board and Putnam County Planning and the Garrison Fire Department. A site visit is scheduled for this Sunday, October 4th at 9:30. Moving on to the next item was a public hearing. I've been reporting on this the last several months. The public hearing now is in its third month. I'm not going to go through all the details, but there was no new public comment at all at this public hearing. The only new thing that came up was the traffic report. The traffic engineer, he just indicated some additional information, and and also the report that he gave to the planning board was only on Tuesday, so the planning board really didn't get enough time to research it and look into it. So that's the reason why the planning board kept the hearing open. But anyway, the other thing that he added was the average speed going was 49 miles an hour and southbound, and 54 miles per hour going northbound. So anyway, as I said, they kept the public hearing open. And one other item, they are adding additional landscape to the southwestward side of the property. They're adding additional 24 pine trees, 6 to 8 feet tall. Okay, under old business, Andrew Koppler, 176 Moog Road. He's building, an applicant is building an existing deck and a three-season room onto his house. It's a 21.8 acre property. I went over the details last month, so I'm not going to go over them all again today. But they did have a site visit on September 13th, which I attended as well. The biggest concern they have there, the additional landscaping they really want to put in, is on a very steep slope. And the concern is they want to see a better plan on how that's going to take place. Also, too, on the driveway they have there is a lot of runoff water coming down that driveway. It's very obvious that the water coming down and erosion on the sides of the driveway. The plan is to take that water and go across underneath, put a pipe underneath the driveway and put the water into the steep slope. So that's another concern that they have. But I'm sure everything will be addressed in the next month's meeting. On the agenda, slope line, which was a subdivision up of Lake Valhalla, that was approved by the board. Under new business, Tony and Kim Ricky, 330 15 Route 9, is just looking to change the use applicant. Right now, they had an application for storage. They're going to change from storage to a one-bedroom bedroom. Right now, there was no action taken on it because this was the first time that he was on the schedule, and he didn't do the environmental assessment form at this particular time, so no action was taken. Meeting was adjourned at 8:55. Next meeting is October 15th, 7:30 via Zoom.
Thanks, Bob. Zoning.
I attended the September 14th Zoom ZBA meeting. There was a public hearing for Chris Flagg and Heidi Snyder at 699 Old Albany Post Road. The applicant is seeking a variance to add living space to their home, which lacks minimum property size. Several neighbors spoke via Zoom, and the application was referred to the planning board. Second item was for NYS MSA, working for Verizon Wireless, for 22 Skyline Drive. The applicant is seeking a further time extension for the reconstruction of the existing cell tower, and at that location, extension was granted. There was one review for completeness for an application for William Cummings, 71 South Mountain Pass Spur. The applicant seeks to realign property lines and split the property into 2 lots. The app was complete and will have public hearing on October 19th via Zoom. That's it.
Thanks, John. Highway.
Highway permit also report, sorry. Phillipstown Town Board members from Carl Presenda worked by the Phillipstown Highway Department for the month of September. September was a very busy month for the Highway Department. Early in the month, the crews were prepping for roads for paving, and resurfacing of roads has been completed on the following roads. East Mountain Road South from box 260 to 349. East Mountain Road North from mailbox 431 to the intersection of East Mountain Road North and South. East Mountain Road North, Esselborn to Route 9. Coleman Road, Fraser Road, Old West Point, and Old Highland. After much debate and allowing the public time to express their concerns, the board voted in favor of paving 1,100 feet of dirt road connecting East Mountain Road North with East Mountain Road South. The work has been completed. New guide rail has been installed on Winston Lane where a previous car accident had occurred. Guardrail was also put on Old Albany Post Road, Surprise Lake Road, and Indian Brook Road by the marsh. A resolution was passed to approve the purchase of a 2020 International HX620 truck for the fleet. The purchase will be paid out of the new equipment line from the 2020 budget. The bid for the Avery Road Bridge Culvert Replacement Project was awarded to Landworks Excavating Incorporated. Work began on September 23rd and is expected to be finished by the end of October. By executing the repairs now, a big savings will be created because a new structure will not need to be added down the road.
On the road, I get it. Highway.
Get it?
That's a good one.
As school reopens, there are more vehicles on the road. A reminder to all motorists, please slow down. The safety of everyone depends on this. The Highway Department received approximately 40 calls in September. Roughly $20,950 was spent in repairs. Carl Fresenda, Highway Superintendent.
Thanks. Building and land acquisition, we're still working on Town Hall. Our contractor is probably the slowest, most irresponsible contractor I've ever met. He's awful. At this point, things are just dreadful with him, and I would say we've been pushing as hard as we can. The place looks good, but we expect to be back in by December 8th, and now he's presenting us this bogus time change order. It's really not a good situation for him, but we're going to keep pressing him. The place looks great. It'll be a big improvement when it's done, but this guy has just turned out to be the worst. So that's our report on Town Hall. I mean, it does look good. It's going to be a major improvement, but this guy's a bum. The The highway department, we're moving ahead with the new garage up there. We learned a lot during the town hall process about how to move things along. So we have some preliminary items we'll be approving tonight to get the preliminary work done, and we're looking forward to a smoother process up there. But if once town hall is done, I think people will be amazed when they come in the meeting room. We made some great decisions there. We have a great architect in Highlands Architecture. Justin's been a pleasure to work with, but there's been some unnecessary slowdowns, and it's amazing that the contract laws don't really work in favor of the town in this state, but we're going to keep applying pressure and see it through to the end. Cemetery Committee.
Okay, the Cemetery Committee had a site visit. They met at the Village, Cold Spring Village Cemeteries, that's Mountain Avenue and Cedar. We had the stonemason attend our meeting as well to discuss the fall work we want to do. As you're aware, in the past, we've done considerable restorations in both cemeteries, but there's still a lot of additional work to be done. We only have one stonemason, so we've walked around and concentrated on the smaller stones, the smaller work that can be done by one person, and that's what will be taking place over the fall. And we're moving forward on restoration, so if you get a chance to go by, you can take a look at the amount of work that's done. There's a lot of foundational work that exists below ground, and I think a lot of people probably don't even realize how much is done there, because if you don't do a good foundation, it won't last, and that's where some of the problems with some of the older stones happened or over time. The town supervisor received a letter from the county executive, Putnam County Executive, Mary Ellen Odell, basically advising us, despite our requests, that while we were provided, the entire county was provided $18,000 in 2019 to maintain a number of cemeteries in this county. We're now getting nothing, okay? So that's the story to us, to Richard Shea and the board, is basically you're on your own, okay? There's no money being put forward. Fortunately, the board years ago provided funding so that we were able to do a lot of this restoration work. But we'll obviously, I'm sure, discuss this in the budget workshops coming up, but that's going to be a definite hit on us. Because the maintenance, which is so important to do at these, I just can't believe that we're going to allow in this county for our cemeteries, our sacred dead, the war veterans and so forth, we're going to allow their areas to overgrow, and that's the message you're sending is we don't care. That's what you're saying when you don't maintain them. I think it's disgraceful that that's going to happen. And I want to thank the board for ensuring, and for you as well, the people that support that in our town, that won't happen here. And I hope to be able to help some other people in other towns, but I think it's disgraceful. I don't know. I understand we're going to be going under some financial issues, but to cut out the amount and not at least take the highway people and go in and cut the lawns and so forth, I think is disgraceful. And we'll be meeting this month later for site visits to discuss other things we want to do, weather permitting. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I would second that, to cut out this tiny little budget item of $18,000 when over the past 5 years, the county's had $10 million in excess sales tax revenue, of which we get nothing, is disgraceful. It's penny wise and pound foolish. It's complete mismanagement, and it is horrifying to say that we're giving $18,000 for the entire county for all the cemeteries. I mean, in this town alone, we have multiples. In every town in the county, you have multiples. Historic cemeteries that go back to the 1600s. So that's not an area to cut when you've had so much money, never putting anything away for a time like this, no rainy day fund with the $10 million over the last 5 years. It's just bad management. You don't spend like a drunken sailor because you have money. And that's our money that goes over there and does not come back. So all the sales tax revenue, all the people who come here, all this money they spend, right to Carmel, out of our hands, out of our control. We've petitioned them for years to try to get some back. We've had no success. So $18,000, woohoo! Thanks, Putnam County. Putnam County Legislator.
She could not make it tonight, Nancy, but I just want to note on her behalf that Putnam County has done very well with its residents in responding to the census and is at a 71.1% response rate, which is higher than the national average of 66.3 and the state average of 63%. And here in Phillipstown, we just want to thank all the residents who responded. We are at 70.8%, almost 71%, which is a 5% increase over the last census.
Did we take the
That's
lead
great.
over Cold Spring?
We actually, Cold Spring takes the lead with 73.3%. But again, we're very high in our town, so that's great news. It means a lot for our representation nationally.
Is it over now, or did they were
Well,
gonna extend it, but?
they were going to extend it, you know, and there's a lot going on right now, so I think people can still try to respond online.
Please do. Come on, Phillipstown. Let's beat
Yes.
Cold Spring. Come on.
Just another couple of points.
Friendly rivalry here.
Stay positive, it's within the margin of error. So
With it
we-
true.
Yes, it's true.
This could be too close to call. All right, here we go onto the agenda.
The first item on the agenda is a resolution accepting the resignation of Irene P. McGrath from the Board of Assessment Review effective immediately.
No. Moving on.
If I could, I would like to amend the resolution to also authorize me to advertise for the position.
Sure, sure. Rena McGrath is a consummate professional. Anyone who knows her knows the great work she does, and been very generous to the town supporting the Depot Theater, and was kind enough to serve on the BAR for many years. So I'm sure she's got other pressing issues at this time, but yeah, let's go ahead and advertise for that position because it's coming up, right?
No, it just
It's in the
happened
spring?
in May, I think.
Right.
Oh, no,
It's at the end of, by Memorial Day, it's in that
Yeah.
area. But they
Right.
still do a few other things
Yeah,
as well,
yeah, yeah.
so it's good to have it.
Right.
And they gotta get training and everything too, so.
Yeah. All right, could I get a motion on the resolution accepting Rena McGrath's resignation?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I vote aye. Thank you so much, Rini.
next is a resolution authorizing town clerk to advertise for the position of Climate Smart Coordinator to replace Roberto Mueller effective January 1st.
Dropping like flies here. It's going to be really difficult to replace somebody like Roberto. The level of commitment that he has shown for this is astounding. He's just exemplary, doing incredibly important work, and Phillipstown leading the way on fighting climate change. So we're going to have to interview a lot of people, I imagine. Well, yeah, he wrote the job description. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, yeah.
He's taken this quite seriously and laid a really good foundation for the next person to come in. So could I get a motion on that resolution?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? And I vote aye.
Next is a resolution approving the following one change order for the Town Hall renovation project in the amount of $8,982, and that is cabinetry changes and additions for Trinity Woodworks for PBS.
So I believe this was for the assessor's office? Yeah. So we didn't include cabinet drawings for the assessor's office. We were expecting this change. It seems reasonable. The architect has approved it, so I'm comfortable moving ahead with this one.
I think some of it is in the clerk's office as well, there's some additional
I
stuff.
think so,
Oh,
yeah.
is there a change in there for that? Because we rejected the change for the microwave cabinet, the platinum plated one. Yeah. So if I could get a motion on that resolution approving that change order.
Second.
All in favor? And I vote aye.
Next is a resolution approving the following change order as amended for the Town Hall renovation project in the amount of $7,448 for refinishing the courtroom floor for Trinity Woodworks and PBS.
So this change order will also come with a credit for the carpeting that was supposed to go down. When we pulled back the old carpet, we saw the floor pattern was so beautiful, we decided to refurbish the floor and bring it back to the original wood rather than covering it over with carpet. And I think it was a good decision. I mean, anybody who's been in that room,
Yeah, it really looks nice.
it really is spectacular. So I think it was worth it. And we did get a credit for the carpet that they were going to put down. So again, I think it's another a tribute to a historic building to bring it back like that. So with that, could I get a motion on that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Next is a resolution approving the following change order for the Town Hall renovation project in the amount of $1,364 for the unit price per windows for moldings for PVS.
That's per window.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a little bit over the top, considering they did have to do some trim and maintenance in the contract. I know they're going above and beyond what was planned originally. I don't want to delay the process anymore, but
I know.
it seems,
Seems
high.
excessive.
What's that?
It seems excessive.
And you can say, I think there's what, 8, 9, 10 windows probably.
You got 6, 3, 9. We got 9, I think.
And then the one in the front. What else?
We got 3 in the front. We got 6 in the courtroom. I think it's 9 total. 9.
I don't know if we have an option now.
That's the hard part. We don't have an option because it's either,
And even if we negotiate, you come down $200 a window, maybe $100 a window,
yeah.
and, I don't know.
Yeah, and if it were that much less, I'd feel a little better about it. I mean, I don't know if we want to, you want to table it and talk to them and,
Sure, we can approve it next week.
yeah, we can approve it next week. So let's table that for now and talk to them about that. Could I get a motion to table item 5 on the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? I vote aye.
The next item is a resolution approving the revised proposal from Electronic Intrusion Protection Services Incorporated in the amount of $7,499.36 for court-related security.
Can I just make a note on this?
Yes, please.
Out of this, $5,774 has been paid for in a grant, so it's only an additional $1,700.
So our court clerk was able to procure a grant for a large portion of this $5,700 worth of that $7,400. And it's something we have to have in the courtroom, especially in light of current times.
There's also, there's also an additional charge that the doors between the foyer and the courtroom are going to be controlled electronically. So there is going to be a charge of about $6,000 for the hardware installed on those 2 doors.
Whew.
But Cindy is in the process of, our court clerk is in the process of filling out a grant application for the next round to hopefully get the money to pay for that. But again, we don't have an option on that either. We will get a credit for the locks that were proposed for the doors and in the specs, but they're not nearly as expensive as these are. So.
Well, we don't have any leeway in this. This is something we have to do. It's court mandated by New York State. So, but again, having a $5,700 grant to apply to that is very helpful, and we thank Cindy Peragio for doing that. Could I get a motion approving the security proposal for the courtroom?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Next item is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Shea to sign the insurance proposal agreement from Dorelli Insurance Agency for coverage from 10/21/2020 to 10/21/2021.
Right, builder's risk is a continuing policy that we took out during the construction for the town hall. It's something we have to have. So if I could get a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved.
Second? Anyone?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Next is a resolution stating the town board may meet every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. at the Town Hall, 34 Kemble Avenue, Cold Spring, New York, to discuss and act upon such business as may come before the town board.
This resolution is being driven by the fact that we're going to try to more than gently urge along our erstwhile contractor to finish the project. So we'll be meeting every Tuesday at Town Hall to make sure things are progressing at a speed that we feel is reasonable so we can get to the end at some point. So that brings in the architect, brings in members of the town board, brings in the contractors, and our building inspector who's acting as clerk of the works. After we've had those meetings many times, things do progress a little more smoothly. So we feel it's worth having that availability every Tuesday morning. Could I get a motion on that resolution?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye.
Next is a resolution accepting the proposal from Beatty and Watson for surveying services in the amount of $3,210 for the new highway garage and authorizing Supervisor Shea to sign said proposal documents.
Our thanks to Glenn Watson for giving us this incredible discount on the work he's going to do for the highway garage. We know it's only a fraction of what it would be if he weren't a member of our community. So thank you to Glenn. They do great work for us, always have. And we're looking forward to kicking that project off and having a good baseline survey and a good scope of work and all the work areas defined on this survey proposal. So if I could get a motion on that resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Next is a resolution accepting the proposal from Quest for asbestos testing services in the amount of $2,617 for the new highway garage and authorizing Supervisor Shea to sign said proposal documents.
This is something you're mandated to do before you demolish a building to make sure there are no hazardous materials that are spread around. So we'll get the building tested, and then if anything needs abatement, we'll do it before the building comes down.
So there is two phases to this as well. Part of it is the testing. The second part is hopefully they don't find anything. If they do find something, it does include an abatement plan.
Okay.
Not the abatement, but the abatement.
No, right. Yeah, well, I mean, it's a Butler building, it's older, there's always the possibility there could be something in there. We're hoping there isn't, obviously, but we are mandated to do that testing. Could I get a motion on that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And I vote aye, thank you.
Next is a resolution accepting the revised proposal from E&FS LLC for pneumatic fluids and compressed air system in the amount of $5,800 for the new highway garage and authorizing Supervisor Shea to sign said proposal documents.
Again, this is more planning for the highway garage, for the compressor systems and the pneumatic fluid system that they use for doing oil changes, axle fluids, all those sorts of things. It's a necessity in any garage. So again, just a part of the highway project. Could I get a motion on that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And I vote aye. Before we move on, I know we've seen a lot of money come across the docket tonight. These are things we've been planning for a decade. We've saved up over time. We've always been under the tax cap in town, but we're very judicious. A lot of things with the tax cap won't allow you to go into infrastructure projects. We don't have a choice. That town hall basically hadn't been touched in any significant way since it was built in the 1870s. The highway garage was probably a 25-year building that's been up for 60 years. There's just no getting around these things. Either you have functioning buildings or you don't have a town infrastructure system. But we have been planning, putting money aside, and getting our bonds in order for the past decade in order to do these projects. These won't have any impact on the tax cap this year or any time in the future. They've been planned for over a decade.
Can I just note one thing about the highway garage? With town hall, as anybody would know, with the renovation, there's always hidden problems. And a lot of these have come up from, opening the walls and you find stuff you don't. The highway garage is getting completely demolished. It's going to be a fresh start. So we shouldn't run into extras. There's always going to be something, but we shouldn't see what we're seeing currently with the town hall. So I just wanted to get that out there.
Yep. All right. Moving right along.
Next is a discussion with residents of Indian Brook Road regarding issues with parking.
Yes. Hello, Claire.
Hi, I just wanted to address the board first. A public thank you to John Van Tassel and to Richard Shea for reacting to the situation that happened on August 21st with myself and my husband. And we wanted to thank you for closing that parking area. It is the best thing that has happened on that road since we moved in. So I wanted to thank you for that because it really means a lot to the neighbors that are there. It means a lot to us, and I wanted to publicly thank you and to also thank people that maybe don't get thanked enough, and that's the deputies who responded to my request twice on that road. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Greg McGarva. I'm also a resident of Indian Brook Road. And I have a couple of comments here I'd like to go through, some prepared comments, and certainly I'm encouraging our other neighbors to speak up as well. But I also, like Claire, want to start out with appreciation. Two things. One, the fact that the parking area was closed, and we've had a strong step taken toward alleviating years of absolute unmanageable chaos there. And two, as Claire also said, we are so grateful for whatever actions that the Sheriff's Department has taken. In spite of being overwhelmed, every time we called them and they came out, we tried to go out there. I tried to go out there and thank every single one of those deputies for taking the time off of their other duties to come and deal with the road. So I want to start, and I'll probably close with the same thing, gratuity. And we're very grateful and really hope that this decisive action will end up being a catalyst for some much-needed long-term change, a long-term solution, and which is substantially what I want to talk about here. But I'd first like to provide a little bit of background from the residents' perspective for everyone. First of all, this has been going on for years, as many of you know, and predates even, my residency here. But folks have made repeated attempts to engage the organizations responsible for the falls and the marsh and parking to get some effective and sustained management of these areas in place. The 8 parking spaces, whose initial purpose, as we understand, was to support marsh visitors, are and have been, and especially now, were completely inadequate for the volume. It's also noteworthy that there was never any specifically designated parking area established for the waterfall, at least as far as we know. But these few spaces were a little more than, if I could use a metaphor, chum to a multitude of cars to engage in parking frenzies in the lot area that frequently required law enforcement intervention. And just this past summer, a couple of examples here, actually more than a couple, a few. But it's important to get a perspective of our perspective of what we were dealing with. Visitors physically blocking with their cars, residents entering and leaving their driveways, and then screaming obscenities when asked to move, and then not moving. Then you call the police. Tens of cars backed up Indian Brook Road to the north, waiting for spaces to open, queuing up, making the road impassable and blocking mailboxes and driveways. Parking in the driveways and then mouthing off to residents when asked to move. Bags of trash, litter dumped in the parking area. I mean, like bags this big in the parking area. Along Indian Brook Road and Warren Landing roads also, and on private property. And on the extremely rare occasion when they were there, these wonderful state parks interns who were just trying to do a really good job, about my kid's age, attempting to maintain order and being ignored and shouted down with profanity by people when they asked them to move. Defacing signage and guardrails, trespassing down Warren Landing after marsh hours, tossing traffic cones, trash, signage down the ravine, etc., and culminating in a near-violent physical assault on a resident this summer by some people on a bus tour. And I'd like to read the following concerns and observations taken from an email to those responsible. It's paraphrased from an email, and I'm going to provide you all a copy of it. We're writing about our concerns regarding Indian Falls and the recent influx of hordes of people using and damaging the beautiful waterfall that flows into the Hudson River. The road is unable to accommodate large numbers of motor vehicles that cause damage to the road. In addition, many people use the road for walking to enjoy the peaceful natural surroundings. The many vehicles trying to get to the falls make it unsafe. Since the state is unable to manage and protect this site, we request the state either close the park immediately or turn it over to an organization that will be stewards of the site, protecting and overseeing Indian Falls and its environment that deals with the falls. This email was sent in July of 2017, and I'll provide a copy of the board of it to the board. My point being that this is by no means a new issue. The situation just became so unmanageable over the years as the visitor count just skyrocketed. So, to go forward, there are some follow-up actions that we are asking the board to facilitate on behalf of the residents, and actions that we are very happy to participate in. We want to help and move us toward a mutually agreeable long-term solution. So there's 4 things I'm going to talk about, just very briefly. Signage refresh update, enforcement augmentation, correcting public information regarding these 2 places, and the big one, developing and implementing a solution to the parking and visitor management situation that's mutually acceptable to the residents, the town, the marsh, and waterfall management. So, number 1, signage refresh update. Basically, for right now, adjacent to the former parking area, there's an area there where EMS and resident access to blockage in their driveways still remains an issue. It's way less, but it still remains. And we'd like to see that area designated a fire lane tow-away zone. This area also has, across from it, has a very dangerous blind curve that we all know who've driven down there. I have personally observed several near-miss head-on collisions between cars and cyclists. And actually, this weekend, while we were standing out there having a little meeting, there were 2 young girls and a dog that were coming around the corner. And had they been, I think, about 3 or 4 minutes later, another car came whistling around that corner, and the driver was looking at us as he was coming around the corner. He'd have hit him. So that's a very, very dangerous corner, and the concern there is that people park there illegally. I mean, they park right under the signs, and we'd like to see some, perhaps some additional signage, but of course the enforcement too. But in the interest of time, rather than go through all the signage recommendations, I'm going to provide a complete list. I've got a list with pictures and right here. I'm happy to give it to you all, hard copy, and I'm also happy to email it. And it's been shared already among the neighbors, so they know what it says. But with the parking area closed, we'd also like to see Audubon remove their signage and the numbered parking space bumpers. These have been in a state of disrepair for some time. Several have been vandalized. At least 2 of the parking bumpers, I think 3 now, have been tossed down the embankment. At least 1 person has attempted to walk under the Audubon sign and right into the woods, which means they would go boom. Fortunately, they were stopped by a neighbor, and before they could tumble down the embankment, and residents put up a temporary barricade there to prevent somebody from walking down. The Audubon director has told us last week that he's waiting to hear from Mr. Shea that the lot closure is actually permanent before he removes these items. I thought that might get a chuckle. So, and in the meantime, actually, he also agreed to take there was a bulletin board there, which was kind of like a magnet for people to come drive and stop, and then they're blocking Warren Landing. So he agreed to move it, and so some residents helped him. We located it and brought it down in a place where he asked us to set it. So that's a question he has. Of course, if you said yes right now, he could watch the videotape and hear your answer. So, but
Yes,
anyway.
Scott, you can assume that is permanent.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
We invested in that.
So enforcement. Again, the sheriff's jobs that they have done has been outstanding. And but we also know their resources have become overwhelmed. One thought about reducing their workload could be deputizing a towing company, granting them the authority to tow vehicles illegally parked. We'd like to emphasize ticketing over towing. Ticketing doesn't, people from out of town, sometimes the tickets aren't so don't mean so much, I think, to them sometimes. But when they're towing and they're blocking an area, or when they're parked and blocking an area, they should be towed. And I'd like to see cameras to maximize the efficiency of the towing company's operation. I mean, rather than going up and down, up and down, up and down, to have somebody watching a camera screen. And this is really annoying fiddling with this because I'm halfway between having it fall down and fogging my glasses up and I can't see my notes. But really, the camera option, assuming it's put up in accordance to whatever guidelines there are for those things. As far as I know in New York State, as long as you're not filming somebody in an area where they reasonably expect privacy, I think it can be done. But again, that would have to be checked out, but it's a thought. The cameras are, you can pay $300 on Amazon and get yourself a cellular camera, monitor, remote, and you're off and running. Solar powered, you run power to it, all you do is mount it up someplace. So that's another thought for consideration, if you will. And then correcting the publicly available information. It's all well and good to have these areas closed off, and we all know Indian Brook Road's been no parking forever anyway. But as long as public information on websites and things like that continue to advertise 8 parking spaces at the top of the marsh and all this sort of thing, people still come. And in particular, what we see, and we've witnessed a number of times, I personally had to jump out of the way of 3 big SUVs that come roaring around the corner, and instead of going around Indian Brook, they roared down Warren Landing Road, jumped out of the way, and they're in there following their GPS because they were going to Audubon, and it's 127 Warren Landing Road, and they punched it into their GPS, and whoosh, down they go. So that's a concern. So we would be looking for some help to facilitate. Obviously, we don't control those sites, but perhaps a facilitation of exchange of information on how to do that. I mean, we even gave the Audubon director some suggested wording to put in his, and he took it. The change hasn't been made yet. But basically updating all this information so that people know and they're informed that this isn't an area where we can all come and gather. That's the the first 3. But now to the long-term solution part, which is where I really would like to focus. And that starts off with acknowledging how we live in a beautiful area. And we understand the concept of sharing it. We're not saying, we want to put a big gate up and we don't want anybody ever to come down here because the marsh is down there. And frankly, it's kind of nice to see a family of kids going down there once in a while. But it needs to be done with a managed population of visitors and with constant and sustained enforcement in place so that there is an assurance of compliance with local ordinances, preservation of public safety, and respect for the permanent residents' property. As I mentioned earlier, the plus or minus 8 parking spaces is absolutely inconsequential relative to their actual number. When you got 8 full and there's maybe 18 or 19 cars running up Indian Brook Road, I mean, it just doesn't work. And people cruising up and down the road all the time, it never was adequate to begin with. So to that end, we are asking the board via written communication to engage State Parks and Audubon on behalf of the residents and the board, all of us together, to work together to achieve a solution. And in as much as the residents have a huge stake in this process, we like to participate, either as a group or with representatives, attending meetings, however. But we would like to be part of the solution to all this because having been on the front lines, we're familiar with unintended consequences, for example, of doing something. We can kind of game that out and help. But that process should involve all the stakeholders. And the coming winter months and the low usage period might make for a good opportunity to ensure the closure is reflected in social media and allow time for the stakeholders to work together toward a solution. And of concern there is that not only visitor conduct is managed, but also the number is regulated. That's really important. We have to find a good balance because it's a small area and it can't safely absorb an unlimited number of people. It just can't. There has to be some kind of a reasonable process set up so that we don't get absolutely inundated as we have. So, to summarize, what we request is the board's assistance in facilitating four things. A refresh update of signage in Indian Brook Road using the list provided as a guideline. Supplementing the Sheriff's Department by deputizing a towing company and getting cameras installed to monitor parking. That list is not all-inclusive. I'm sure there are many other great ideas that could come up, but that was one that came to mind. Ensuring social media and websites are correct in their representation of the parking situation, and then a participatory, meaning residents, towns, state parks, Audubon, and mutually acceptable long-term solution that provides a meaningful experience for a managed number of visitors while also preserving a tranquil, safe, and clean environment for the residents, specifically by the written communication I previously mentioned. So, in closing, we look forward to the board's positive response and advocacy, and our being a part of the solution. I'd like to express appreciation again for what you did to finally take some decisive action that I hope will kickstart some kind of positive, corroborative discussion to get something in place that will make this work for everybody. And again, to the Sheriff's Department, I can't forget them. Certainly the opportunity to present this, and with that, I have a handout I can give you. I think I only have 3 or 4 copies here, but I'd be happy to
Leave those with the clerk, and she'll make sure we get copies.
Okay, thank you.
All right, for me, that's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time, and if anybody else has anything to say.
Anything to add?
Hi, Peter Bynum. I live a stone's throw from the falls, right where Beverly Warren comes into Indian Brook. And all the residents here all have multiple horror stories of how things have deteriorated on Indian Brook Road. We all moved to the road because it's a beautiful, peaceful, bucolic road. And now I feel like I'm living at the entrance to Splashdown South. I mean, it's almost like it's become an amusement park with a parade of cars from New Jersey, from Connecticut, from Pennsylvania. It's nonstop. And what's happened now, and we do appreciate you closing down the 8-car parking area. But what's happened now is that there's a parking lot that I believe Central Hudson controls at Indian Brook and 9D. And that gets about 10 cars. And when that's full, cars start parking along 9D on the property that Boscobel owns. And it's become actually a very dangerous situation. I sent you all 2 emails with photographs that show the chaos of people actually walking on 9D with traffic coming both ways, about to get hit, and then beginning their walk all the way to the falls. So you get 10 cars in the Central Hudson lot, 10 more cars along 9D. That's 20 cars. And then you get 3 or 4 in the pull-offs along Indian Brook. So now you've got maybe 25 cars. Each car, it's never just 1 or 2 people. It's always 3, 4, 5 people. So you have maybe 20, 25 cars with, say, 4 people each. That's 100 people that you've got traipsing up and down Indian Brook Road, graffitiing the guardrails, graffitiing the signs that actually mark the entrance to the park, graffiti tags everywhere, litter everywhere, smoking weed, leaving their beer bottles. It's so, I never go to the falls. I used to go to the falls almost every day. Now I never go. It's like the Yogi Berra joke, that nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. None of us want to go out and enjoy Indian Brook Road, not on a bicycle, not for a walk. So I feel, that people we all want to share the nature. We all feel blessed to live in this beautiful place. But I feel like the root of the problem here is the social media. That's what's let things get completely out of control. And, you get the New York Magazine articles, and remember about 5 years ago, the New York Times had an article on Constitution Marsh. and we had about 200 cars over a weekend, and they had to shut down the marsh so the marsh could recover. And I kind of feel that is what needs to happen with Indian Brook Falls for a while, because you can take away the bucket by taking away the parking, but the spigot is still wide open if social media is still spreading the word about these falls. So I saw that Stony Kill Falls is closed. I don't know why they're closed, but this is a website called All Trails. And if you Google Indian Brook Falls, All Trails seems to be one of the main sites. And so people go there, and then there's comments and the like. I think if they saw Indian Brook Falls closed for the rest of this season and probably into spring and summer of next year, so the word can go out on social media that the falls is closed and there's absolutely nowhere to park, then and only then will this problem begin to subside. Because we can, figure out parking and all kinds of things, but it's just a flood of people coming. And, they're coming, they're taking pictures, they're posting it on Facebook. More and more people are coming. The problem's getting worse and worse every season. So I hate to suggest draconian measures like closing the falls. It feels very ungenerous, and we want to be generous with the beauty that we're surrounded with here. But I feel like we have to do something that really gets the social media to let people know that this is shut down for a while, for the nature to recover, for the falls to recover, for the road to recover, because that small one-way road just can't handle all this traffic. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? How do you feel about leaving the falls open for residents?
Well, I think that's an issue, and I endorse Greg's suggestion of a working group to figure out what to do about that. Certainly, people on Indian Brook Road itself can walk and bike to the falls. Even people in Cold Spring can bike to the falls, and if they know anyone that lives on Indian Brook Road, they can come and park. I invite people to come and park in my drive if they want to go to the falls. So I do think that's a little bit of a dilemma. How do the locals get to enjoy it while shutting down the flood of people from outside and even from other states? So I think that maybe some sort of working group to figure out what the right mix is a good idea.
Thank you.
All right, I'll tell you what has been done beyond, putting up the guide rail and blocking up the parking. We've been petitioning the state for several years to close the falls, just to give it a rest. I mean, areas have a carrying capacity, and that area has in my estimation, a very low carrying capacity. It's extremely fragile. I mean, I've lived here my entire life. I've been going there since I was a little kid, riding my bike down there. Fighting social media is a tough battle. Social media is a double-edged sword. It's great if you want to use it, but when it's working against you, it is a really tough battle. And this is not just Indian Brook Road, this is the entire town. If you looked at what was happening at Little Stony Point, at Breakneck Ridge, on East Mountain, on Fishkill Road, all these places are being inundated. And again, you can understand why people want to come and hike the trails and see the community, but every area has a carrying capacity, and we're far exceeding that. It's to the detriment of the environment, it's to the detriment of the residents, the detriment of our infrastructure. It has just stressed everything, and stressed people, to say the least. So on the weekend, when you have 3,000 or 4,000 people coming to town on a weekend day and spreading out, and not so much spreading out, concentrating in certain areas, it becomes very, very difficult. I had a meeting with Scott from the Marsh, with Linda Cooper, who is the regional director of New York State Parks, with the mayor of the village, and with Evan Thompson from Fawnstock Park of Hudson Highlands. And their position is they're not in the business of closing parks. They're in the business of getting people to visit parks. And our position, the mayor and I, was that, well, can you still be in that position when it means the destruction of the park? And they just don't see it that way. We said, well, we'd really like to see Indian Brook Falls closed for a period of time, as you suggested. We've said that 2 years ago, last year, and 2 months ago in a face-to-face meeting with the regional director and the local director at Hudson Highlands. They're just not interested in doing that at all. It leads to bigger questions and further, larger discussions about how the entire corridor of 9D is going to be managed. It's just a situation that is rife with the possibility for a big accident, someone getting killed, because you have high-speed traffic, you have people walking in the road. Everybody here has seen all of it. It's a really, really complicated and difficult decision or problem. For a brief period, they did close down Breakneck Ridge, and the changes were almost instantaneous. The trails, they'll recover. Plants will start to grow back. Wildlife comes back. And, for myself, I can't understand what the draw is when you go to an area and you're virtually in a line to get there. It just doesn't seem enjoyable. But in a survey put out by the state, people from densely populated areas don't mind that at all, which is surprising. As a matter of fact, they're actually encouraged by it. That was the finding. So it doesn't mean that we're going to lay down and take it, but I think if the more people we get involved in this and the more we can petition the state to say, look, we're not looking for the permanent closure, we're looking for a reset where we can shut the area down for a while, give it a chance to recover, fight the social media, and then have a gradual reopening. I don't know a way that they can do crowd control. We're looking into the ownership of that property that we thought was Central Hudson, but we've been told is Consolidated Edison. We can't get in touch with anybody who knows the ownership of that. I'm tempted to just run a guide rail right along there and block it off anyway. And, if they cry foul, we'll say, well, prove it. Prove it to us that it's yours. That'll be the next thing that's coming because it is too much. And we saw the little reflectors that they've put along the entrance, but people are just running those over. We can't go putting guide rail up on Basketball's property, but it would be good to get them involved. I feel for Scott at the Marsh. He's in a tough position right now. There's no funding for him. He's running the place on his own. It's a beautiful spot. It does need to be protected, and Audubon, they're the organization that does protect it, but they need to be aware of all these concerns, and I'm sure they are aware at this point because Scott has heard it from you, heard it from us, and sat in on meetings with the state. But, to not belabor the point, we're certainly open to working with you on this and petitioning the state to step up and be better stewards of that area, being that it is so fragile. So I don't know if the board wants to add anything.
My only argument is they don't want to close parks, but that Indian Brook Falls is not a park. There is no, it's park land, but it's not a park. There's no infrastructure, there's no guidance, there's no facilities, there's nothing. It's just park property. My feeling is to bring Linda Cooper here and have her sit down with the people that it's really affecting and say, what's the solution and what can you do? If she lived on that road, I don't think she would be happy with the fact that, there's 400 people a day going to the falls. So I think that it would make a difference if we could bring her here and with Audubon and sit down and say, give us a solution because this isn't working. They don't have the manpower or any facilities there to control the crowds and keep it reasonable. So I would say, shut it completely.
No, it's, and you'll hear the same thing from her. She's in a difficult position because she also has bosses and.
It's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, it does have to start. The buck has to stop somewhere, there's no doubt. But these meetings, I would say, have been far from productive. We don't get the answers we want. And if they're going to encourage more visitors, they need to come up with a plan to manage this visitation. And we have actually intimated to them that we're not afraid of taking the state of New York to court because we're the ones who are suffering from this. The state's not suffering. There seems to be no management plan whatsoever in the entire corridor. we can't understand why at this point, even at Breakneck, why there isn't a parking lot there that's fenced in that they charge $15 a pop for. You could be making $12,000 in a weekend. Would certainly pay for more staffing, but they're going in the other direction. Most recently, they have eliminated the park police. There are no more park police. They've been absorbed into the state police, except in New York State, you have to be under 35 years old to be a state police officer. So all the veteran officers are in this limbo at this point. It doesn't make any sense. We have more visitors, less resources, less police presence, and we certainly have brought this up to the state numerous times in writing and in person. And it's frustrating because it seems to fall on deaf ears, and we meet periodically and we go through the same litany of concerns, and we get the head nodding and we understand and we feel for you, but nothing changes. So it's a difficult situation, to say the least. No one's happy about it, certainly not the board. And the one thing I will say, my sort of gripe is, they point to Little Stony Point and the Washburn parking lot as such a success story. Well, I wrote the grant for that parking lot and I oversaw the construction of it. And Phillipstown got virtually no credit, no mention of the fact that we were the ones who sponsored that project for New York State. And it's infuriating to say, wow, let's pat ourselves on the back, New York State. We did such a great job down there. Let's rest on our laurels. We're the ones who initiated that parking lot and wrote the initial grant and oversaw the construction, hired the contractor, managed the funding of it, and essentially oversaw the entire thing except for the landscaping. So you can see what we're up against. Again, that doesn't mean we give up. We will invite Linda Cooper for a workshop on a Wednesday evening, and have her here in this room, and the residents can raise their concerns with her. I'll forward her the packet that you've sent to us with the concerns in that. We will address the things that are in that packet that are within our power in the very, very near future. The signage can be done in the coming weeks. There's no doubt about that. We can also hire a towing company. We've been a little bit reluctant to do that. It's a little heavy-handed. People come back and find their car is gone. No one's happy about that. But it seems to have reached that point. So next week, we'll be deputizing a towing company to come in there and start towing. The idea of a camera is a good one. We've talked about that for various reasons. For the dumping, when we had the tire dumping down there, which is mind-bendingly infuriating. So I'm going to thank you for your suggestions and your willingness to partner on this, but we will work with you on this. Yes, sir. You're going to keep, oh, yes, yeah.
I'm just going to say, in terms of things that can be done easily and quickly, that parking lot at Indian Brook and the Central Hudson, Con Ed.
Yes.
Just a telephone pole laid across there would do the trick. So it's a very easy fix for that.
Yeah, you'd be surprised that you need to be extremely careful when you put up barriers, because if somebody crashes into a telephone pole that's laid on the ground, we get sued. It's got to be a DOT-accepted traffic, either traffic directing device or traffic calming device. Yes, sir.
If I could, just really quickly, first of all, I really appreciate hearing the efforts that you all went through with all those entities. It's good to know that that's at least being done. And please let us know how we can help to keep the pressure on. We're happy to do that. Whether it's meet with these folks, whatever.
Yeah, I think a letter writing campaign to the regional director, Linda Cooper at Statsburg, would be a really good start. You know, you go on the New York State Parks website, you look up Linda Cooper, her name is there, she is the regional director for this entire area. So I think that if you get people writing letters, we get her here, we get good attendance, because numbers matter. That's what really changes things. We have CC'd Sandy Galiff on all our correspondence to Linda Cooper, so she's fully aware of this issue.
Can I just ask, is she absolutely the right person to come? Indian Brook Falls is, the official designation is Hudson Highland State Park, at Indian Brook Falls, and which is a string of parks from Peekskill to Beacon. And the commissioner for that is Eric Kulisek.
Eric Kulisek is the New York State Parks Commissioner. We have also met personally with him on Route 9D in Phillipstown and voiced our concerns, both the mayor of the village and myself.
Okay, I just raised it because, of course, he grew up in Garrison.
Yes, and he is fully aware of the issues here. Yes, ma'am. If anyone wants to speak and be heard, we should be best if they came to the microphone.
Vicki Albanese, Indian Brook Properties. Indian Brook, that's my business. Indian Brook Road, excuse me. With all due respect to regarding Linda Cooper, we've been there, done that, and what you said is we concur with. It's deaf ears. It's talking to deaf ears. So if you think that we should do it again, we write to her constantly. So, and anything that we can assist the board, we will certainly do so.
But these are the people who are in charge. You could CC Eric Kulisek, you could CC the governor. I mean, many times I've heard, look, the governor doesn't want to do this. That's what I hear. So I just think that, there's only so many tools that we have in our toolbox. Going to court against New York State, that's a tough road to hoe. We're not afraid of doing it. And for a lot of reasons, we are contemplating doing it with the village of Cold Spring because of the mismanagement of the parks in Phillipstown.
Well, again, thank you for all of your efforts on our behalf, and if we can make it a concerted effort, maybe in numbers alone, that will help.
Yes, I think it would.
One more thing about Constitution Marsh and Scott Silver. In your discussions with him, has he indicated that he's actually willing to work with us?
Yes, absolutely.
We've lived here 51 years in that area. And we've had a number of directors down there that we've worked with. And I'm not saying that he's more difficult than anybody else, but as Greg said, they're platitudes. And that's what we've gotten, is platitudes. We've had meetings with him in my backyard, with him and our neighbors, asking for signage. We wanted more explicit signs from them to say, no cars this way. We bought the signs. We put them up. They did not. Then he tells Greg, oh, they're not giving me any money. He doesn't have a budget for down below, that he couldn't get a sign printed at Gray's Printing, which is where we got ours. It's a simple thing, but in all honesty, there's a lot of frustration here. We've asked over the years for a number of things. They're intermittent. It happens, no more. It happens again, maybe 1 or 2 times, doesn't happen. Frank, our neighbor, has been picking up trash in that area, and I mentioned it to him. Oh, well, we'll do that. I saw them once. People throw the trash over the guardrail, and there's bags of it. Now, Frank's not going over there, and he shouldn't have to. But he was the guy who's picking up because it's right outside his house. So I guess I'm a little frustrated at Constitution Marsh, Scott Silver, Eric Lind, whoever was before him, and we know all of them from before Jim Rod. And that's all we get is platitudes, with the exception of Mr. Rod, who was fantastic. Yeah. But Jim is long gone. Thank you.
I think going back to Jim Rod, who's one of my heroes, things were a little bit easier then. We weren't quite so well known back then. So, yeah. And so that was pre-social media. So these guys are up against it. I know Scott has no budget. He has no assistant this year. They're not taking on any interns. But that doesn't relieve them of the fact that they are the managers of that property. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that not just the area they're talking about down where the falls are on Indian Brook, since the parking area has been closed there, we, on the other end, are getting all kinds of horrible things. We have been having horrible things happen along with all of this for 5 years. But now they're parking up on our side, on the other end where Route 9 is. And they're parking in our driveways. They're very, very mean. It has caused so many stressful situations there. Yeah. When we call the police, because a lot of times they're blocking areas there, because there's parts of Indian Brook that are very narrow, they will just say to us, "Oh, we're just waiting here. We're not really parked." And the police told us not to do anything. You know, we thought perhaps to put a little note on their car that they will be towed, and the police have advised us not to do that. But it has been horrendous for all of us that live now. The problem seems to be, spreading all the way up where we are. I can't understand. Perhaps I was very amazed at all of the things you were doing. I wasn't aware of that. And so I think, when I think about this problem, I say to myself, how can anybody open up the falls when there's no place for them to park and there's no money? Because when I talk to Thompson, the head man over there, he tells me they don't have any finances. And you know what? Today, when I was working outside in my yard, I was thinking, how stupid. How could you even think to do a stupid thing like that? I mean, if you get an example like, if you were thinking to open a restaurant, wouldn't you think that you had enough money to finance it? And also, wouldn't you think you'd have parking spaces for people to come? So I don't get it. I am really at the point where perhaps it's not very nice for me to say, but I would really like to see it closed because they don't have a way to manage it, and they don't have the finances to take care of it.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I don't think you're in the minority in wanting it to be closed for a while. Anyone else?
And maybe this isn't the right forum to answer and the expertise isn't here, but the question is, with respect to a private road, which Warren Landing is, what are the guidelines with respect to law enforcement being able to tow somebody if they're blocking it and that sort of thing? We know we've talked to, and I don't want to make this sound like a rhetorical question, we have talked to the sheriffs and they're saying, well, technically, if you're on a private road, there or like on Moog or someplace, that the police can't have somebody towed or ticket you. And yet with Warren Landing, it's very narrow, and one car blocks it, which means no EMS, no fire, and if we have to get out in a hurry, if you have a personal emergency, what do you do? And I'm just looking for some guidance on that. Are there some signs, and we'll buy the signs, are there some signs you can put in if you say no trespassing or something like that? What can be done to set up a situation in which if somebody does come down there, parks their car and blocks the road, they can get towed?
It's our understanding that on a private road, if it's properly signed and there is a warning that explicitly that you will be towed and you will be ticketed, that the sheriff can enforce that.
Thank you. That's done. That's fantastic. Okay. Great.
The sheriff may be mistaken, because it's our understanding that if the signage is up, and that signage has been put up by the owner of the road, then that's enforceable. So maybe our attorney needs to call the sheriff. Anyone else? All right, we'll be seeing you in the near future, obviously. We'll invite Linda Cooper down and have another discussion so she can hear this, but I would encourage everyone to write her. All right, Tara, moving right along.
So the next item is to schedule any workshops or meetings. Our next monthly town board meeting is scheduled for November 5th. You have a workshop scheduled for October 7th with Roberto to review the recommendations of the NYPA report. And then there is the issue of scheduling budget workshops.
All right, so we already have something on the 7th.
Yes.
So October's looking to be a busy month.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if you want to do Rec, Highway, and Justice at one of your Tuesday mornings. I mean, that's up to you guys.
Well, Tuesday, you can't guarantee everyone's gonna make it, right?
yeah. I'd rather do it in the evening.
Okay.
It's also so we can have, if, people want to have public input.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that doing the fire, the emergency services, and the water district and the park all in one evening is possible.
So all the fire, ambulance, and the CV districts?
Yeah. that we-
Okay.
Those are generally pretty easy.
So we have something set up for the 7th already, so the following Wednesday would be the 14th.
So let's go ahead and do them on the 14th,
Okay, at 7:30 here?
7:30 here, yes.
Okay.
And then the 21st,
You
We
want
can
Rec,
do
Highway, and
Rec,
Justice?
Highway, and Justice. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know if that's asking for trouble having Rec and Highway in the same night. I think Rec is going to be really easy because of the situation. So I think we can do this. Normally, I would say no, but let's go ahead. We'll ask Amber what she thinks it's going to take, but I would say 20 minutes for Rec, and then a half hour for Highway and a half hour for Justice. And we can maybe we want to go with Justice first, so we don't, let's do Justice first.
So I'm sorry, we're gonna start these at 7, correct, as opposed to 7:30?
7 o'clock,
Okay.
yeah, so we're not,
Yeah, so I'll put Justice for 7, Highway 7:30, then Rec, or you want Rec before Highway?
let's do Rec before Highway, because then we
Okay.
can do 7 to 7:30 if that takes it.
Yep.
Have Rec, they can be in the room. I don't think Rec's going to take more than 20 minutes.
Okay.
And then we'll go to Highway
All right,
and torture Carl.
okay.
And next week, is that gonna be 7:30?
7.
7th to 7th, okay.
All the budget
Okay.
workshops will be at 7.
o'clock, got it.
And then the November 4th date is fine. We generally do it around then.
Yeah, I went off of last year's, basically.
Yep.
All right, and then, I don't know if any of you saw the following email from Roberto about scheduling a workshop. He said either October or November with, Jeff Demansky of Hudson Valley Energy to do the annual update.
That's going to have to be November.
November, that's
This
fine.
October's.
Do you want to pick the November date, or do you want me to put it on the agenda to pick at the
Well,
November meeting?
I mean, if we should find out what it entails. I mean, is it going to be an hour-long thing? Because if it's going to be a 15 to 20-minute thing, why don't we do it at the town board meeting?
Okay. I can contact Roberto and find out.
Yeah, if that's possible, that would be
Yep.
good.
So the next item on the agenda is the Code Enforcement Monthly Report. Yep. All right, so this report is for September. Fees collected, $20,748.64. There were 32 total permits issued, 3 additions, alterations, or repairs to residential buildings, 29 all other permits, including pools, sheds, decks, plumbing, HVAC, et cetera. 40 certificates of occupancy issued. There were 2 stop work orders issued, 2 inspections of public assembly, 2 inspections of commercial occupancies. And Greg says that electrical standby generators are a great addition to your home, but please be sure to hire licensed contractors and file for your permit.
Good advice, because if you get it wired wrong, you're going to lose a very expensive piece of equipment. All right. Anything else from the board?
I just wanted to take a minute to thank our school districts for welcoming our children back and having really safe plans and making it a smooth transition back. It's a very challenging time for all of us, but I think for the youth of our community, it's especially difficult. And I'm impressed with both of our school districts, and Dr. Benante led a team to reopen, and Garrison reopened smoothly. And so far, I'm hearing from parents in the community that they're happy with how things are going and how it's been handled, and our children are transitioning well. So we just want to thank the school districts, Haldane and Garrison. I just want to also, as we go to the polls in the next month, I just want to echo Supervisor Shea that we're very fortunate to live in this community, in this town, and that we continue to respect one another in the month ahead, despite what's going on, all the external noise. I think we have a good life here despite any differences we might have. So thank you.
Yes, thanks, Judy. Anyone else?
Follow-up regarding Continental Village water quality issues.
Yes.
We had a meeting on September 21st. We had the town engineer, we had the water and also park superintendents. The fire department was not able to make it. It was a fact-finding meeting. We also had the clubhouse president, who happens to be one of the people directly affected by this system. This is regarding the 5 homes that are adjacent to the Cortland line. We have issues where when the water gets stirred up, it creates turbulence in there, and it stirs up, and people end up with brown water problems. Something I wasn't aware of in the firehouse, apparently it isn't just the 2.5-inch main that goes to the hydrant. They also have a 2-inch line that goes into the building, which I wasn't aware of. I just thought they had regular water supply in there. Either one can cause a problem, so that would be, both would be a problem. The short of the story, we had a lot of discussion, but according to Ron Gaynor, our engineer, who is a water systems expert, if we try to take the fire department and place them on the Cortland line, he believes we're only going to solve part of the problem. We're still going to end up with problems. It does appear as though the hooking the residents to the Cortland system, according to him, is our best solution. We are also polling the other 4 residents that would be affected by this change if we were to make it. The Cortland system, though, is more expensive. It will be more money. We are finding out exactly how much. We do have 2 homes which sit already on the border, which are in Phillipstown. They are on the Cortland system. So we do have already that situation happening. So we will be finding out more pricings and so forth, exactly what it would cost to it. And then, of course, we'd have to sit down with the 5 residents and be able to see if whether or not they want to do that. And then we would have to look into how much would the actual water district be paying for it and so forth, and then how would that get billed. And of course, our engineer has already reached out to Cortland's engineer just to advise him that we are looking at these issues. I have just been trying to get an education from Ron Gaynor about why there's no chance for wells there, but it doesn't appear as though that's very likely because of the setup that's there in the area presently. So we are continuing on that, but I just want you to know we've made some very good progress recently.
Good. Thank you, Mike. It's been a sort of intractable problem. Anything, Bob?
Yeah, I'd just like to recognize and thank Bruce Campbell for all his community service over the many years that he contributed to our fine community here. Bruce was involved with many organizations, and I'd just like to recognize and thank him and send our condolences to Patty and Evan Campbell.
Yeah, for those not familiar, Bruce Campbell, former village trustee, and Man about town, absolutely. Lifelong resident of town, passed away recently and very suddenly, so people were shocked by that. And just a good guy to hang around with, a lot of fun over the years with Bruce. So I know the board sends their condolences to the family, the Campbell family. Anything else? All right. Vacancies, 0. That's what we like to see. Approval of vouchers, general.
We do have one vacancy now because of rainy. Sorry
Well, we
to
don't really
burst your bubble.
count. We don't count the BAR as a vacancy, all right? We had a perfect record this year. It's the first time. All right, we got one vacancy, I'll admit it. Approval of vouchers, general. Second.
Second.
All in favor? I vote aye. Highway.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Continental Village Park District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? I vote aye. Continental Village Water District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? And I vote aye. Motion to adjourn.
Wait, one other item I forgot to bring up.
Come on, Colombo. Come on.
This Saturday, Knights of Columbus is sponsoring a food drive for the local food pantry, so we're collecting food and also school supplies. And I'm going to thank Tara for putting it on the Municipal channel, so I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that.
There's also a list of the supplies that they're looking for on our website.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so check the website for the specifics of that, because it will be things that people need. Hard to believe in a community like this, but need is still out there, especially now. Just to sort of tag along with that, the town is still funding relief for people who need food. I've never, ever seen such need. I mean, it's not only in this community, Newburgh, Peekskill, Carmel, Putt Valley, all over. We've been spreading money around and gift certificates or food cards. But when you look at the city of Newburgh, they may be, as a crow flies, 2 miles away. You may as well be in another country. It is horrifying what is happening there. It is heartbreaking to see the blockade to even learning there, the difference between the Phillipstown community, the experience that children are having there, and the Newburgh community is so stark, you can't be denied. It's just unreal. I mean, you have kids going to places like fast food restaurants just to get internet access and doing their homework sitting on the sidewalk. So it's pretty stark, and we're trying to help over there. There are people working on it, and we've actually donated a considerable amount of money to that through the funding that we've received. So we're going to continue to work over there. That's a community in desperate need. So with that, motion to adjourn. Second.
Second.
All in favor? I vote aye. Thank you.